Much, Mr. Michelson. Next up, Mr. Nuzzo.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, I would like to thank you for the honor and the opportunity to appear before you this morning. My name is Sal Nuzzo, and I serve on the policy team at the James Madison Institute in Tallahassee, Florida. We are a nonprofit economic policy think tank that focuses on the policy issues impacting Florida's 22 million residents. Fresh out of college and starting a career in policy, I dreamt of one day testifying before the United States Senate on an issue of profound importance, maybe international monetary policy or perhaps a Supreme Court nomination. But as my 14 and 13-year-old daughters informed me last night, Dad, nothing you speak on in your career will be as important as what you say today. Don't mess this up. So here we go. Florida is home to 13 major sports teams, 15 Major League Baseball spring training facilities, NASCAR, F1, the PGA, LPGA, college, and numerous other sports venues. I say that because most of those venues serve as concert sites when they're not in use during their respective seasons. In Florida, sports and live entertainment is a $6.5 billion market, a sizable share of the nation's $133 billion economic impact in this area. So this issue is important to Floridians, not just with respect to primary ticketing, but also the secondary ticket market, which I would like to open with. I'd like to offer our perspective by way of a brief analogy. Because I'm an employee of a nonprofit organization, I drive a 15-year-old Volvo with 200,000 miles on it. God bless the Swedes. I purchased it from a private seller in 2015, and much to my kids' dismay, it's still going strong. Volvo didn't place a single restriction on the automobile when I purchased it, and if and when I decide to sell it, they'll likely have no role in the transaction. In fact, I don't think they have a clue what's happened to the car since it left their dealership. This is true for just about every auto manufacturer. Consequently, our auto market is a robust, thriving, and diverse industry largely adhering to the forces of supply and demand. The same could be the case for the market governing the selling, marketing, and resale of tickets to sports, competitions, and concerts. It could be, but it has not occurred. There is, as we've spoken about, one dominant market player approaching 80% of the primary market. This does allow them the ability to leverage that dominance through service fees, exclusivity requirements, and other practices that are ultimately borne by consumers. At its core, a debate is occurring over what a person actually obtains when they purchase a ticket. Some would argue that the purchaser is simply leasing or renting a space in a venue, and that the lease is subject to terms and conditions. In our opinion, that logic rests on a misguided assumption that the commodity is the venue. Ask anyone attending a Jaguars game, or a Harry Styles concert for that matter, where they're going, and they'll reply, I'm going to the Jags game, or I'm going to take my daughters to see Harry Styles. They would not reply with, oh, I'm going to TIAA Bank Field this afternoon, or just taking my kids to Amway Arena tonight. The stadium may have a lifespan of 50 years, but an individual purchases a commodity with a much more limited lifespan, a couple of hours. This distinction, in our opinion, is vital to the debate over the issues within the event ticketing space. Over the last several years, we've heard the term consumer welfare standard uttered much more frequently. Questions over whether the standard is still applicable in today's innovation economy, whether it should be replaced with some other form of subjective measure, and in the age of tech platforms, what consumer welfare even means. I would ask you all today, as we conduct this hearing, to set that principle aside. In this area, we would contend that consumer welfare is very clearly defined and reflective of the issues and challenges within this industry. Those representing the dominant player in the market would contend that their growth has allowed them to innovate and make advances that greatly benefit consumers. A few million Taylor Swift fans would respond, this is why we can't have nice things. To be clear, from our perspective, the issue isn't the Taylor Swift crash per se. That merely revealed how a lack of competition over time has corroded innovation and distorted the market. I would ask, suppose a robust, vibrant, and competitive market for ticketing had been allowed to evolve and innovate over the last 20 years. Would the Taylor Swift crash have occurred? It's a hypothetical, of course, but absolutely one worth considering. I will conclude my remarks with a call to you as policymakers. On this topic, in this arena, consumer welfare is very clear to define, and there are actual harms to consumers from anti-competitive practices. Thank you to all, and I appreciate the opportunity to be before you today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nuzzo. And next up, Ms. Bradish.